I was there today, and I made a bunch of observations. First of all, not a lot of very young people. I think that my generation saw the definitive movements of our lifetime, Black Lives Matter, Me Too, the March for Our Lives, and said, okay, well, we're still watching black boys get murdered by cops. Somebody's getting put up for mayor in New York City who has a dozen credible sexual harassment allegations. We're still seeing schools get shot up. What are these protests going to do for us? You know, the boomers who came out, and there were so very many of them, they saw the Vietnam protests, the civil rights protests, and there was something tangible that came out of that. But the protests that we've seen, there's been so much great awareness that's been spread. There have been victories on a smaller level, but they haven't felt like these protests have directly led to what we are going for.
And that is the voice of Cameron Kasky. He's an American activist and advocate against gun violence. He co-founded the student-led gun violence prevention advocacy group Never Again, MSD. He is notable for helping to organize the March for Our Lives nationwide student protest, which happened in March 2018. He's 24 years old, out of Hollywood, Florida.
And he makes some.
I agree. He makes some great points.
Did he?
I think so.
Like what?
From that perspective, young people view it. I believe that young people view it in that way.
I don't know if they view it that way at all.
24 and under?
Yeah, I don't take anything that groups an entire demographic, age, race, as a proxy for everybody in it.
Sure, that's fine.
And I think about that in terms of March. This is the same.
A generalization is a generalization.
Yeah, that's right. And the same formation that I don't disagree with the energy. I don't disagree with the sentiment. I think that there needs, that this young brother, and for that matter, anybody else, young, old, or otherwise, has to continue to develop a capacity to understand how things work together. So the minute I hear the word tangible, that's a hot button for me, because that's one of the main words that's been used in weaponized ignorance on social media.
Sure.
So when you start talking about the impact of mass mobilization, I'm sure that this similar sentiment, albeit in a different age and in different moment, there was not social media, for example, and a lot of the platforms that we have now, was expressed during the civil rights movement. What are you sit-ins going to do? Y'all sitting in, but what tangible do we get from, in fact, you could almost
I think that's a different comparison.
Well, no, I think it is the same, and I'll tell you why. When you hear Malcolm X at Brown Chapel in Selma, Alabama, speaking with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee about this, when you hear Malcolm X and his challenge to the March on Washington, all very valid and important critiques and criticisms on how that thing came to be. But let's be very clear. After Malcolm leaves the Nation of Islam and says we'll work with anybody, and when he talked to Mrs. King, this isn't an either or thing. And understand, if memory serves me correctly, do you remember the march? He said he was the organizer of March for Our Lives, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Is that not a contradiction?
No, it's not.
Okay, well, how's that not a contradiction?
7 years ago is a lifetime to a 24-year-old.
I'm talking about the fact that he organized a mass protest.
Yeah, in 2018.
Which means he was even younger than he is now.
Correct. That's why I said
he wasn't
7
there
years.
at the one now, even though he's older than.
No, he said he was there. He said he didn't see a lot of Gen Z.
Who else? Well, where were the people who were there 7 years ago weren't there today because.
That's the points that he's making. They don't think it's an effective action.
Okay.
So the question I was going to pose was,
let me hold on, but let's just
if there were young people listening, were you there? Call in.
All right.
That's what I was looking for.
Well, let me just slow this down. What would be the difference between a 17-year-old 7 years ago or 18-year-old 7 years ago and today?
That's a lifetime.
Indeed.
That's a lifetime.
Yeah, it is. Were they doing the same thing? They're not doing the same thing then now. What were they doing then that they're not doing anymore? What are they doing now that they weren't doing then?
That's the compound interest of evolution.
Okay. Let me make it plain, as Malcolm might say. They working.
Yeah.
They trying to scrape by.
Yeah, but the world is different from 2018.
What was what the March for Our Lives was organized around what issue?
Gun violence.
Exactly. What was the No Kings movement? What was the No King protest organized around?
Democracy.
State violence. Exactly. Gun violence is a part of state violence, but that issue that was just like with the Women's March, which was a response directly to the election of Donald Trump. I guess what I'm saying is when you have to think about things, and you don't have to do anything except die.
But
the point is that when you have a platform, you have an obligation. You don't have an obligation. I'm sorry. We should aspire to being more complicated than what we say.
That's fine. That's all well and good. In
no,
theory.
I think that's essential.
No,
you
in
can't
theory.
just pass that
Well,
up.
No, but what I'm saying
In theory, November the 1st, supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits are going to not be able to continue. A number of states have said that. You were talking about this before.
I understand that. You understand
42 million. Well, I'll tell you who's going to understand it. When in 42 million Americans who are already under pressure because of that big bullshit bill, when they cut $186 billion out of the program over 10 years, now Texas, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, New York, and other states are warning, this is November the 1st. That's next week.
Okay. Going with his generalization, why were they not there?
I think a lot of young people, just like a lot of people in this country, but even worse for them because many of them are what people would call digital natives, are under the perpetual assault of the internet, the perpetual assault of social media, the perpetual assault of disinformation.
How is that different from what he said?
What I'm saying is that it doesn't matter at this juncture whether they are there or not. They will ultimately be driven there. You got to continue to develop your analysis. So if people calling up saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, let some people call up and tell them why I weren't there. Let's see if it matches with what I'm saying. Because I'm saying that at some point when you hungry and you finally pull out of that phone and realize, then you will be there. And I'm saying the purpose of a moment like that is no different than when we were talking earlier with Baba Berry. When the A&T Force sat down in Greensboro, or the Nashville protests in 1960 with C.T. Vivian, John Lewis, Diane Nash, and them. It's never going to be a whole bunch of people at the beginning. You build toward a March on Washington movement in 63. You build toward a Black Power moment in 1964 in Mississippi, Freedom Schools and Freedom Summer. You build toward the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965, which is triggered in part by the Children's March in Birmingham earlier. And then there are flashpoints that galvanize everybody. Okay. 4 girls getting bombed in Birmingham, a beating on the Edmunds Pettus Bridge. You don't, in other words, we're not polling people as to why. Well, maybe we are. I don't know. Kind
of, sort of. But I think, Tom, it's you have to say that times are different, even though I hate saying that, but times are different because in those examples that you gave, the buildup was because time had to take place. Time does not have to take place now because information is instantaneous. So you can, as an 18-year-old who lived his formative years through COVID, it's either I'm looking at this video and I'm going or I'm not. There's no discussion. There's no what happens if.
Let's take your observation to its natural extension.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to be at the movement to be in the movement? I'm looking at it, which means that is my participation. Think about how many people looked at
who operate that way. Yes.
All right. So in other words, they don't have to physically be there.
That's what the thought is. That's what the thought is to a lot of people. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm asking you whether that perception, in fact, is reality.
My reality, or
well, you said time to change. So I'm assuming that's going to be no. So then, if it's not your reality, does that make it any less important?
No, it's still important because that's how people operate. Okay. That's my point.
So in other words, then it doesn't matter whether they were there.
No, the volume always matters.
But are you saying they were redefining volume? Participation can be remote participation. Ain't that what you're saying?
In their eyes, yes.
Yeah. So
that's
in other words,
because that's how they view the world.
So there you go. You just answered his question. Why are you talking about who was there physically when they respond remotely?
I'm agreeing with him. You said you disagree with him.
Yeah, I disagree with the idea that somehow you got to tally the number of people who were there physically as a proxy for participation.
In a way, you do.
Now, see, you disagree with the man again.
He's saying they weren't there, and he stated the reasons. I agree with the reasons why they're not there.
I'm saying,
and to
according
your secondary
to you, they
point,
are there, perhaps.
That's not what I said.
You saying virtually that's their form of participation.
Yeah, that doesn't make it an accurate assessment of participation. I'm telling you what it is. That's how they view it.
You tell me what it is.
That's how they view it.
Right.
That's how they view it.
Right.
But
so
the
maybe
absence of them.
His comment was a mediation perhaps on his growing wisdom over the age that he is now. Perhaps it's a commentary on having to redefine what it means to participate, even though he didn't say that. Right?
Well,
that's according to what you just said.
To the point being, the overall arching point, it's the young people that are going to activate movements, correct?
No.
What do you mean
not
no?
necessarily.
That's where we just left off when you mentioned how at Howard it was the student body that forced the hand of the administration.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the young people are the kickstarters of movements.
They're often kickstarters of movements. Yes.
Okay, for the most part.
I'm not even.
So the
I'm
fact
not
that
even
they
willing
were
to concede that,
absent
brother. Anytime we start doing that, I have to hear that from. I have to from somebody who's made a tally of movements. Do you really think that rebellions of captive Africans was young people exclusively? Harriet
I didn't
Tubman
say
was young.
exclusively. I said
Do you
kickstart.
think Martin King, although he was 26,
26.
Yes, he was, and Rosa Parks was 42, and they called her the mother of the movement because she was in her 40s. So I'm saying yes, but then E.D. Nixon was older than her. He had been on the Pullman line fighting for these people since the 30s.
That's where the
Fast forward to the 70s and 80s.
expertise.
Jesse Louis Jackson ran for president. Louis Farrakhan gave him security from the Nation of Islam. Neither one of them was young people.
Yeah, that's
electoral
what
politics.
you
what I'm
talking-
saying is this is a lot more complicated than
Sure.
flattening it into
That's
young
fine.
people
That's fine.
always lead the movements. That's
I ain't
come
say
on.
always lead the movement.
Tried to make the
I
case
said
that-
no. Oh, Mr.
We are now so
Oh,
thick
Mr.
in-
Wallace.
Oh,
Oh, Mr. Wallace.